young person in the room who forgot to turn off their cell phone before coming here today? Maybe I should make you nervous.
That's a lot of fun. Isn't this exactly the outfit that you would associate or were programmed to associate to a hacker, right? Whenever I come up on the black jeans and the hoodie and the mask, society has created this imagery so that we immediately think hacker. I bet you every one of you thought that. In fact, what I think is funny is I told the AV crew, hey, it'd be cool to have a video. I didn't tell them what to pick, and they picked the Matrix-like, video because they also have this thought on what a hacker environment is supposed to be. The truth is, most hackers don't dress like this. The 2019 Verizon data breach report that just came out last week said that 63% of hacking this last year in 2018 was through nation state and organized crime. So most of them overseas in other countries go to work dressed in like you do, business casual. They have a CEO, they have a CFO, they have a head of HR for companies that are organized that hack. But we create this imagery to create fear in our customers, don't we? So that we can sell more product. And it works because people like to be afraid. That's the reason horror movies do so well. Some people are just intrigued with the idea of how would they get into my phone? How does that really work? Today we're going to have a little bit of fun, and I'm going to hack a CEO's Office 365 account live here on stage in a minute. We're going to bypass his two-factor authentication. Don't need that. So it'll be fun. But before we get to that, I want to ask you guys a question. So I want to elicit a response from you guys today too. Not a response of fear, although for me it's fun. I want to elicit a different response. I believe that there's a shared response between what Tech Data as a global IT solutions distributor and our channel has in helping solve or work towards solving this cyber skills shortage in the market. How do we effectively enable our customers to fight cybersecurity challenges? I believe that if we don't tackle that together, who's going to do it? Because there's many security vendors on the market, but they need a point of the spear. They need a way to reach the customer base, and that's what our channel is. And so we're going to talk today about both of our shared responsibility to do exactly that. But first, I want to ask you guys a question because a lot of what we're going to talk about today predicates on this answer. And when I throw this question up there, I want to see a show of hands of how many of you guys agree with this statement. Are you ready? So here's the statement. Hackers, it's not if, it's when. How many of you agree with that? All right, that's good. I don't have to be terribly worried. So John Chambers famously said there are two types of companies. There's those who have been hacked and those who don't know they've been hacked. And that's a very true statement. I was talking to a partner the other day, maybe 3 weeks ago, and they said they have a customer. They're a small furniture manufacturer in Ohio. And their customer said, yeah, we don't really need any more security. We're not really a target. We're a furniture store in Ohio. And I'm like, you totally don't get it. Like most of hacking today is automated. It's bots on the dark web scanning, looking for vulnerable ports. They don't know where you're located. They're just scanning. When they find something vulnerable, then you get put in a queue, and then they have a whole arsenal of things and exploits they throw against your IP address to try to get in. And maybe it's just a security camera at a remote office location, a car dealership in Wisconsin, or maybe it's a Fortune 500 company. But largely it's automated. So everyone is a potential target, and everyone needs protection. And we're going to talk about that just a little bit more today. What's interesting about these attacks is most of them have some sort of a social component to them. So social engineering could be something as simple as this. I like this a lot. So at the very least, if you think you're not hackable, I can go drop a couple of thumb drives in your parking lot of your office building, probably next to the Mercedes and the Lexus and the nicer cars. And then statistically, someone will pick it up, and within 10 days, they'll plug it into their work computer or into a computer in the office. And then I got them, right? So there's, how many of you guys in here have ever heard of a rubber ducky? Anyone ever heard of a rubber ducky? No? That's probably a good thing. That's a couple people. So a rubber ducky is a USB thumb drive, but it's got some special software on it that when I plug it into a computer, the computer recognizes it as a keyboard, not a storage device. Now the benefit of that is it turns out that Windows largely ignores all security when interacting with a keyboard and a mouse. So if I plug in as a keyboard and I have Ducky script running on it, just a scripting language, I can inject any commands I want to in that computer. And more or less, a lot of the security is bypassed. Pretty powerful. So Ducky scripts are common, and dropping them in a parking lot is one simple way bad guys can get into an environment. Now, what I want to do today is I want to give you guys another example of how social engineering can be used to compromise a customer. And we're going to have a little fun here. So I'm going to do an attack that's actually fairly common. So everyone heard of phishing attacks, right? Mass emails that go out to lots of people, hoping that somebody clicks that link. And I don't need everyone to click it. I need a handful of people to click it because it only takes one for me to be inside the company. So we're not going to do a phishing attack today. We're going to do what's called a whaling attack. Now, a whale is a big fish, right? So who's the big fish at a company typically? CEO, CFO, CIO, those are big fish. So a whaling attack is like a phishing attack, except it's a lot more effort goes into trying to compromise one target. So I'm going to spend a lot of time on one person, but the payoff is usually pretty big. Now, we call it a man in the middle because we're going to be in the middle of the whale that we want to log into their Office 365 account, and we're going to intercept their traffic. So here's the way this is going to work. I'm going to start out with having to identify who's my whale going to be. Now, I like healthcare because healthcare data records sell for a lot of money on the dark web because they typically have a lot more information in them than a financial or retail data record from a customer. So we're going to target a healthcare customer, and the name of the company here is Millennium Physical Therapy. Now, this is a healthcare conglomerate, and the CEO's name is Juan. Juan's last name is Percenter. You follow me? 1%, 1%. Okay. So Juan is going to be our target. He's our CEO. Now, I am going to mess around with a real company here. This is a real company. The attack we're about to do is 100% real. There's no trickery here. Everything you're going to see is going to be real with a real Office 365 address, a real Office 365 account, a real healthcare company. Now, this happens to be a friend of mine's company. I don't know if he knows I'm doing this or not. He might not. I'm his IT guy, and he gave me permission to manage his emails. So I do blame him for this. But I'll probably let him know after we're done what we're doing here today. But I do have permission to do this. So what we're going to do is we found Juan Percenter on LinkedIn. Juan has a LinkedIn profile. So I connected to Juan. Now, my name as the attacker is Court. Court Urfit. Court Urfit, counterfeit. Guys, this took a lot of alcohol to come up with these terms. I need some response here. So I'm Court, and I send Juan a LinkedIn request. He connects to me, and now we're first level connection. So I send him a note, and here's what my note says. It says, "Hey Juan, thanks for connecting. I see that you're going to be at the HIMSS conference coming up in just a few weeks. Do you have time to connect and learn about our new email security system?" Now, this is funny because I'm about to hack him using the guise of an email security solution. Juan says, "Hey, actually, I do have some time on Tuesday. Let's meet for noon at lunch at Starbucks, and we can in the lobby of the event." So this is great. So I got the CEO willing to meet with me. Now, this sounds a little odd to do an in-real-life meeting with a target. And the truth is, in a whaling attack, you do go to some extra links you don't normally go to in a phishing scam. And if the payday's big enough, an in real life experience is not terribly unheard of. Oftentimes you might not realize you're meeting with them. Now, if the hacker's over in Russia, it's probably not going to happen that way. But we're going to have a short 15-minute meeting at HIMSS conference with the CEO of a healthcare company and interact with him. So the other cool thing is once you're a first level connection on LinkedIn, I can get their personal email address. Whether you know it or not, your personal email is on by default for all first level connections. So be aware, because I just got his personal email. We'll use that in a minute. Now, the second thing we're going to do is I'm going to go to HIMSS and meet with Juan, and we have a great little 15-minute meeting. I pitch him my email security solution. He likes the messaging of it. Took me 15 minutes to throw together some slideware from other security companies, and it looked legit, right? So I showed him the information. He bought it. So now, after the meeting, I come back and I send an email to his personal email address, right? And here is what the message says. He says, Juan, it was great to see you at the HIMSS conference last week, and thanks for taking a minute to talk about our new security module for Office 365 to prevent phishing and identify bad websites your employees should avoid. As we discussed, I've installed the module in your email, and I encourage you to take it for a spin and let me know what you think. You can access it here by logging into your Office 365 account. I look forward to your feedback. Now, this is the phishing email, but it's targeted at one person, and what I'm hoping is he's dumb enough to click the link, right? And I set him up for success because I met him in person. I was very convincing. He feels like he has a connection. He's going to click that link. Now, if he were technical at all, he would know that I can't log into his Office 365 and install a security solution without him knowing it or giving me permission. But a lot of CEOs in healthcare aren't technical, and so I'm hoping he doesn't realize that. The point being, most phishing emails have some sign in them, this doesn't feel right. And when it doesn't feel right, don't click the link, right? Unless it's from me, and then you can click it. I promise it's safe. So here's what we're going to do. Let me just explain what's about to happen. So we get a phishing email. It comes in to our victim, Juan. I have a piece of software running, a proxy server, if you will, called EvilGenix. And what EvilGenix does is it can replicate the login page for many different types of programs. Office 365 being one of them. Twitter, Amazon, GitHub, LinkedIn. I can replicate all these login pages, and you'll never know it's not the real stuff. And then Juan's going to type in his credentials into my fake site, thinking it's the real Office 365, and I'm going to capture those credentials. It's going to forward him on into Office 365, so he's none the wiser. In the meantime, I captured his credentials, and now I get to go log in as him. But here's the fun part. I'm not going to log in with his username and password. I'm going to do it a little differently, and you'll see how that works here in a second. So here's how this attack is going to work. We have now logged in. I'll log into my computer. Perfect. So I am running some software here called EvilGenix that I fired up. And I'm going to run a command called lures. You know, we're phishing here, so phishing has lures. Get it? Lures, get URL. This is my URL that is in the phishing email that was sent to Juan. Notice that the email is not login.microsoftonline.com, which is their normal login. This is login.avidentity.com. So I have a bunch of domain names that I keep. They're like $10 a year. Why not have a lot of domain names, right? So if I were a real bad guy, which as far as you know I'm not, I would go buy a domain name that looks really close to login.microsoftonline.com with a couple of different characters off or something like that. That way the attack we're about to do looks a little more legit. But Microsoft, it turns out, pays attention to those domain names that get bought, and I don't want to be on a special list, and neither do you. So I'm using a domain name that's obviously not Microsoft, so it's just going to be avidentity.com, which is a domain name that I had laying around to use. But you'll get the idea. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to pop over to Firefox, and I'll open we'll just start right here. I'm going to paste in our URL that's in the phishing email, and we're going to hit go. Now, notice this looks exactly like an Office 365 login, doesn't it? And my browser's cached his username, so I don't have to type it right now, but juanpercenter@mphysicaltherapy.com. So we're going to say next, and now it's going to ask for his password, which my browser's already cached from previous, which is fine. I'm just saving time here. So Juan types in his password. And now it's even going to come up with two-factor authentication. Now, I've set it up so Juan's two-factor actually goes to my phone just to save time. So it just came up for me. So let's type in our code, 576737. And I'm going to hit verify. And now we're logged in to Juan's, or Juan just logged in to his own Office 365. Notice at the top, the URL still says avidentity.com. So if he's not paying attention, if he were paying attention, he would realize something's not right. That should say Microsoft.com. So notice that it's also got a green padlock. I'm replicating his SSL security certificate. So most people just glance and make sure the icon's green, and if so, they think green means good, right? Not necessarily. So I'm now logged in as Juan. Now here's what just happened in the background. While Juan was logging in, my Evilgenix server captured his username and password. Look at this. Here's the username, juan.presenter@physicaltherapy.com. Here's his password captured. All that's great. So if I run a command called sessions, I can now see some login sessions, and we're going to go play with sessions 19. If I look at the details of session 19, I can see the username and password that Juan used to log in. I captured his security token, and it lists for me this big, huge, weird string of characters. That's a security token. Here's something you guys may not realize. When you log into a website, whether or not you type in a username, a password, two-factor authentication, biometrics, it could be an eye scan, it could be a fingerprint scan, whatever you do to log in, once you do finish the process and you log in, the website gives you back a security token into your browser as a cookie. And that's what actually logs you into the site. It's not your username and password. It's the token that the web server gives you back. So here's the thing. If I have the token, I'm going to copy this token. So now I have Juan's token. And I'm going to bring up a whole different browser just to prove to you that I'm not saving anything here. And this browser is, this is Safari. We're using Firefox a second ago. I'm going to go over here and use an extension called Edit This Cookie. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to inject my own cookie into the browser. I paste it in the token. And now my browser tab has the cookie that should log me right in. So now I'm going to go to login.microsoftonline.com, just like Juan would, and it logged me right in. No username, password, or two-factor required, because I had his token. So if we click on Outlook email, let's log into Juan's email and let's see what's what. So we're in Juan's email right now, and it looks like there's a couple of emails here that happened, and I'm just going to show you the attack that I did. So Juan is our CEO, and now I'm logged in pretending to be Juan, right? So what we're going to do next is we're going to go send an email to the CFO and say, hey, man, would you approve this payment? It's end of the quarter. So there's an email that gets sent over to the CEO. Now, our CFO's name is Penny Pincher. A lot of alcohol, guys, a lot of alcohol. So Juan sends an email to Penny. He says, hey, are you available to handle an international payment this morning? Have one pending before the end of the quarter, and I could use your quick response. Let me know when you're ready for the bank details. And Penny responded to me and said, hey, Juan, no problem. I'm leaving for Chicago in an hour, so please send over the details ASAP. And then Juan sends over the details of the financial transaction. Don't bother pulling out your phones. This is dummy data. So in real life, I would put in my offshore account and pretend to be the customer, right? And then the CFO would authorize payment into my account. This attack happens all the time in corporate America. Someone logging in as a CEO, sending that email to the CFO or the VP of Finance and getting them to approve a wire transfer into a bad guy's account. So what I want to do for just a minute is let's swap over to our PowerPoint, and I want to walk through just a little bit more about how this works. So just to recap, what we did is I social engineered a CEO of a healthcare company to click a phishing email link, right, that was bad. When he clicked the link, it sent him to my Evilgenix server, not the real Office 365 server. But it looked exactly like Office 365. So he logged in, username, password, two-factor authentication. I captured his security token as it came back from Microsoft. And once I have that token, I'm golden. Now I can go pull up my browser, inject that token as a cookie in my browser, and it logs me right in. Pretty cool, huh? So this is a common attack that happens all the time. And we already looked at these emails, so I'll fast forward through this. So here's the deal. A little bit of legwork on my part as an attacker. And this particular hack took me probably 2 weeks to set up. I had to go buy a cloud server, a Linux server, stand up the EvilGenix software, go get a domain name, do all the DNS routing required, set it all up. So it took about 2 weeks to set up. So a little bit of legwork from me as a hacker, an unobservant CEO. And isn't that the key? Like, if we're just a little more observant, we would catch most of the attacks that happen to us. The question, though, is your customers vulnerable? And I think we would all agree that likely they are. Most people can be social engineered if the story is crafted to be something that they want to hear, right? Because this is only one of thousands of potential attacks. I was going to do another demo that me and some friends were working on, where I actually intercept a two-factor authentication code in transit from the source, to your phone, and was going to show how I can log in that way. Because I can go to any data breach site and I can get your username and password. Because most of you probably use the same password for most of your accounts. Shame on you if that's true. Because if I, for example, want to hack your Apple phone, I don't go into your phone, I hack your Apple cloud account, right? And if I go get some sort of credential data breach that happened at a jeans or retail store online that has no security at all, and I get your username and password there, then likely that's the same password you're using at Apple or Amazon or PayPal or your bank. Change your passwords, people. They need to be different at every site for the critical accounts, right? So there's a lot we could cover here. I was going to do that interesting attack, intercepting two-factor, and a friend of mine pointed out to me that, do you really want to do something that actually is illegal on camera in front of a lot of people? I was like, maybe we don't do that. So I bailed on that, and we went with our whaling attack. So next, I'd like to just talk a little bit about the expanse of the problem, because this impacts every one of us in the room. Bad guys thrive because there's so much opportunity. We all veer toward opportunity in our lives, and hackers are no different. If you think about the fact that the first website came out in 1991, and I wish I knew which site it was. I don't remember. But there's now 1.2 billion websites out available for all of us. So if a bad guy compromises just a handful of 1.2 billion, you can be rich, right? And that's exactly the way they think. They don't need everything. They need a small portion of the environment. There's going to be 6 billion internet users by 2022. How many of those guys do you think are going to be susceptible to a phishing attack? Big percentage, right? How many of you think that out of 6 billion users, they all have complex, unique passwords? No, they don't. And as a bad guy, I don't need to target all of you in this room who are smart and know to do those things. I need to target everyone else who doesn't. The opportunity is huge. 200 billion IoT objects online by 2020. IoT is changing our lives. It's making it more convenient, more productive. But the challenge is a lot of IoT companies still ship with default passwords and very poor instructions on how users can change them. A lot of IoT solutions still don't have a way to update firmware. One of the common attacks we do is there's a whole set of products out on the market that have embedded web servers, little Chinese web servers embedded in devices. And it turns out there's no way to update the firmware. So when they went out 6 years ago and they have old firmware and we know vulnerabilities to those devices, we can compromise them. There's a search engine online where I can actually search for all the IP addresses on the internet that respond as that type of device running that type of web server that hasn't been patched in 6 years. And then I just write a little script to iterate through all those IP addresses, and I can compromise every one of them. And now I have a botnet army that I can point toward a target and send a whole bunch of traffic to in a distributed denial of service attack. This stuff isn't that complicated, actually, to do. And the opportunity is tremendous. 200 billion IoT objects, what percentage of those do I need to just be vulnerable? 0.001, right? 300 billion passwords need to be protected by 2021. 20 million connected cars will ship by 2020. Connected cars are fun. I just got a new car, and it's fully connected and does all this cool stuff. And all I can think about is how easy it would be to reverse hack into that car and then drive it into a tree, right? I'm kind of morbid, I do admit that. But silent assassinations through self-driving cars and connected cars are absolutely a thing and will continue to be a thing. Kind of scary. Not what you think about when you buy a new car, right? So cybercrime damage costs are going to hit $6 trillion annually by 2021. And this is the crux of it, right? This is why hackers do what they do. $6 trillion, that's significant. So I want to take just a minute and talk about what I believe Tech Data's responsibility and your responsibility is in this fight. Because the opportunity is huge, and it's not going away, and it's 63% organized crime and nation state. So our customers are very vulnerable and they need help. So from my perspective, there's three things I want to tell you that Tech Data is doing to participate in this global effort. And one of them is we have built this year a global cybersecurity strategy. So we recently have a new global security leader. This is my boss. His name is Francisco Criado. Anybody know Francisco? He ran our IBM business for a long time. Several of you in the room. Francisco is awesome. Very knowledgeable, loves the channel, tremendous experience, and we're very glad to have him. He's going to make sure that our strategy in security at Tech Data is consistent across the Americas, which I run the Americas, Europe, David Ellis, my counterpart, runs Europe, and Naresh Desai runs our Asia-Pac business. Francisco is going to make sure our global strategy is consistent across all of them. That means when we sign new vendors, we want them to be accessible to you in all the regions when possible. Whenever we build new solutions and services, we want all of them to be available when possible across the regions. Right now, we are already swapping a lot of solution offerings between us and Europe. And it's a lot of fun because they're learning about things that we built, and we're taking advantage of things they built, and it's going to make us better for you guys. So consistent global marketing strategy so that we have one voice globally from Tech Data for security. Once again, so that when you have an order, whether it is in the Americas or over in Europe, it's a consistent messaging for your benefit. Our goal is to be a more consistent global security provider for the channel. Now, the second thing that Tech Data is doing as part of our responsibility is expanding our security sales and solutions. And this looks like a lot of different things, but I'll tell you about a couple of them. So first of all, I'm hiring a dedicated security vendor recruiter. Why? Because there's probably over 1,000 security vendors out in the market today that are little, but they need to be looked at. I talk to 3 new security vendors every single week of my life. They find me, I don't know how, and they think that if they just sign with Tech Data, they'll have access to you guys and that you're going to sign them immediately and all sell, $10 million. And so I'm like, it doesn't work exactly that way, but let's talk, right? And so we walk them through a maturity scale of helping a small stealth vendor get prepared to build a channel and then to take advantage of 2-tier distribution. And it's a lot of fun. It's my favorite part of my job, actually, but it gives me an interesting perspective because I've seen a lot of players in the market. Well, we need help. So I've got a dedicated security vendor recruiter so that we can sign the relevant, unique vendors to our line card for your benefit so you can sell solutions to your customer. And my strategy is to make sure we're covering all the areas of security effectively. There's 27 areas of security, according to IDC, and we want to make sure we have vendor offerings in all those areas. Some of our larger vendors have solutions that cover a multitude of those areas, and some of our vendors are really good in one area, and we want to cater to both. We have a vendor incubation program for those smaller vendors to give them an opportunity to be better and to succeed. And we are hiring a dedicated security sales team in Phoenix that's going to be there to help with prospecting and to help interface with you guys so you understand all the services that we have to offer, the solutions we have to offer, our vendor line card. We just recently came out with a new managed security service offering called Recon MSP. If you come to my breakout session this afternoon, you can learn all about that. But this sales team is going to be there to help you guys understand how that works and be successful. And then my favorite is we're launching in the August-September timeframe a cyber range at Tech Data. Now, what's a cyber range? That is a place of hands-on security learning. There's a lot of places you can go to learn head knowledge about security, take a Security Plus certification, et cetera. But somewhere you can go and really play with live fire malware, where can you do that, right? Red team, blue team. Red team is offense, blue team is defense. And we put both groups of people in one virtual network environment and we say, go. And the red team is attacking and the blue team is defending the network. And then we analyze how they approach the problem. And then afterwards, we kind of do a debrief. I'll give you a hint. The red team always wins because there's always a way in, right? But it's good for the blue team, who is the security analyst at your customer, to know what to expect and how to defend against it. So their cyber range is going to be a place where you can interact with many of our vendor solutions and a place where you can send your people to get training on how to physically interact with cybersecurity. Most of the training will be available equally remote and on site. So we're excited to be launching that later this year and help solve the cybersecurity skills shortage that exists today. Did you know there's 313,000 open job positions in cybersecurity in the United States alone right this minute? Cyberseek, SEEK.org keeps track of that. So the third thing that we're doing as part of our responsibility is our MSP partner solutions. I talk to you guys every single week, and more of our partners are looking and smelling and feeling like a managed service provider. Whether you want to call it that or call it something different, many of you offer managed services in a subscription or consumption model to your customers. And half of you come to me on a regular basis and say, I want to add security to that. What does that look like? Like, what can I leverage? I don't have the capital to build it on my own day one. How can you help me? And so Tech Data has built a number of solutions to help you be successful. And one of those is our Practice Builder program, which we talked a little bit about yesterday. We'll talk more about it in my breakout later. But Practice Builder is a program where our partners can sign up. And if you qualify for the program, we will help you for 3 to 6 months to build a security business. And we've added managed security service capability to that training program, with a whole list of things that you can do to build a managed service offering as part of your solution set. Recon MSP is a catalog of all the managed security solutions from all of our security vendors, all in one place, where you can easily see what you can leverage and white label and offer to your customers. And we'll talk about that more later. We are constantly looking to develop more managed security service offerings for the channel, and we'll do that throughout the rest of this year. And we're really excited about it. So let's swap over to the other side of the coin, which is if those are the things I'm doing to help prepare the channel to scale and protect our customers against cybersecurity threat, what are some things you can be doing? And I'll throw out a couple, and one of them is to invest in a security leader. If you want to build a security business, the truth is it's an ever-changing environment. Every single day, there's news about new breaches. There's new vendors that come on the scene. There's new areas of security that pop up. And so you need someone at your organization, not necessarily full-time, but someone whose job is to understand those changes, to learn to speak the language of security. It is its own language. Pen testing and SIM solutions and vulnerability assessments. Like, what are these things? CASB. Learning the language is important because your customers won't take you seriously without it. And having a security leader that can pick the right area of security to focus in is a key part of the equation. Something else you can do is security sales training. I cannot tell you how many times I've sat across the table from the owner of a partner who says, we need to be in the security space. Like, our customers are asking for it. We don't know enough about it yet, but we need to be there. And then they say, we're going to do it. And then they call me a month later and they're like, I cannot get my sales team, who's been selling NetApp storage their whole career, to sell security. So sales training is such an important equation, translating the desire of the direction of the company into the sales team that you have. And one of the tips we learned early on through our Practice Builder program is if you want to be successful in Practice Builder, look at your sales organization and figure out exactly what they're capable of selling. Are they hardware sellers? Are they software sellers? Are they services sellers? That informs you on exactly what area of security you can invest in, which then informs you on what vendors you should consider selling. But if you try to build a SIM solutions security sales focus from your security leader and your whole sales team knows how to sell server and storage, that's a mismatched strategy. So sales training is super important, and understanding the makeup of your sales team is important. Leading with security assessments is the right strategy for that sales team, because if you can get into your customer and identify where are they weak in their security posture, they may have fortified the heck out of their front door with steel rebar, but if the back door is a screen door, like, what's the point? So an assessment lets you go into a company and look at all areas of security and tell them you've done the foundational stuff, but now it's time to look at some more advanced stuff. There's always upsell opportunity in a security assessment. Tech Data offers vulnerability assessments, penetration testing with our own W2 employees that you can leverage as one type of assessment to get into your environment. We offer lots of compliance assessments and many other things. We'll talk about some of them in our breakout later. You need to think holistically about designing a security solution. If there's 27 areas of security, according to IDC, once again, you don't want to just sell them a firewall. That's an important part of the equation, but it's not the only part. And most of our security vendors here sell many areas of security to help you with a holistic option. There's always upsell and cross-sell in a security sale. Develop a go-to-market strategy to capture the opportunity. I've talked to so many partners as part of our Practice Builder program that have hired a security leader, they trained a couple of salespeople, and they come to me a couple months later and they're like, we're just not growing. And upon investigation, it turns out when I checked their website, they haven't changed the website beyond what they used to sell. There's not a security message. No one knows they sell security. Their Twitter feed's not lighting up with security content. There's no marketing strategy. That is incredibly important if you really want to grow. It's not enough just to have smart people and a good strategy and a good leader. If your customers don't know that you sell security, then you're probably not going to grow. Don't neglect the go-to-market. And lastly is providing a security managed service, because it's recurring revenue. And the decision point for you is, do I build it or do I borrow it? If you want to build it, that's awesome. We can help you even with that. Maybe you build a firewall managed service. If you want to borrow it, I have a whole catalog called Recon MSP of offerings from our great vendors that you can leverage day one, white label yourself, and not have to build it from scratch. And maybe once you prove a market, get your sales team trained, maybe a few of those you decide to take internal. That's great too. We'll help you do that. My job is to help you no matter if your strategy is to build it or to borrow it. And we're going to talk more about security managed service later today in my breakout. So listen, I want to thank you guys for the opportunity to come chat. I believe very firmly that there's a dual responsibility here. There's things Tech Data as a global IT solution distributor need to be doing to help the customer base and you, the channel, spread the word and protect the customer. But I believe that it doesn't work if the channel doesn't get involved. And we are here to help make you successful. So please come talk to us afterwards. We'd love to chat about how to help you do that. So thanks for the time. Appreciate it.